Laura, you can go.
Okay, all right. Thanks everybody for being patient with us. We are live today with an interview with Andy Herrmann, and we switched over to the YouTube. Of course, we all practiced right before, and we had a slight little glitch, but thanks for joining us today. As I mentioned, our guest is Andy Herrmann, who is a past ASCE and a SEI president, so we're extra lucky with that. He is a partner emeritus from Hardesty and Hanover Consulting Engineering, and worked most of all of his career in downtown New York. Right now, currently, Andy's role with SEI is the director of the SEI ASCE Cross US program, which is confidential reporting on structural safety, which is associated with the United Kingdom Global Cross program. And Andy, through his whole career, has served on many ASCE, SEI committees, and lots of other professional organizations, including active and leadership roles, and is currently also involved in a lot of civic and community. He's also an expert in movable bridges, including in design and investigation. So there's a lot of questions about what we can talk about, Andy. I just want to go over a little bit how you ask questions to Andy by using the chat that's in the YouTube. Be sure you hit subscribe and then click on the bell. Be sure that you get all of the features for the live chat. So Andy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became and why decided to be a bridge engineer?
When I graduated from Valparaiso University in 1973, there weren't many jobs around. I sent out many applications, and I got an interview with Hardesty in Hanover. And I went down there for my interview, and they offered me a job on the spot, take it or leave it. I took it. And after 40 years, I was still there. So Hardesty in Hanover has been very good to me. I really enjoy working on bridges, especially the movable bridges. They're quite interesting. They not only have the structural engineering, but they have the mechanical and the electrical, and they all have to work together.
So I know that bridges as an important part of your career, and also they're an important part of the infrastructure and the infrastructure report card that I know that you've worked on in the past, and there's a new one coming out in March of 2021. Can you talk to us a little bit about that process, what it is, and why it's important that structural engineers especially be aware of and participating in this important initiative from ASCE?
The ASCE infrastructure report card is very important, and I've been involved with it, I think, back to 2001. I was chair in 2009. It makes a very easy way to tell the public, our politicians, what the condition of infrastructure is with a simple A, B, C, D, E, and even F grade. So it's a great way to get the message out that we do need to invest in infrastructure. And with the last report card in 2017 coming out with a D+ overall rating of 15, 16 categories, we have a ways to go.
Can you give us a little preview of what you think is going to be coming out with the new edition in 2021?
We have looked at all the categories. I believe we've added one additional category with internet involved, but we haven't been able to spend money. With Infrastructure Week has come up once a week every month or so in the past year, so we're not getting the investment. So without the investment, I'll let you take it from there as to what the grades are going to be.
So as we encourage everybody to enter a question, we have a question for you, Andy. What is your favorite part of being a bridge engineer and a structural engineer just in general?
Well, my favorite part of being a bridge engineer is after you've worked on the piece of paper and designed the bridge, especially a movable bridge, is to go out and watch it being built. And in the case of a movable bridge, watch it open and close for the first time and not hit anything when it does it. That's really satisfying.
That's a good one. You've had a lot of leadership positions in your career, especially within ASCE and SEI. And can you share some of your experiences about that? I know you've done a lot of interesting travel trips through these organizations.
Well, I would recommend to young engineers that get involved somehow. Start out on various ASCE or SEI committees, volunteer. And then after about a year, see if they need a secretary or you need some other position, and just volunteer, get involved. And all of a sudden you find out you're vice chair and then you're chair of the committee. It's a great way to get speaking experience, to be able to deal with others. And it's a nice way to do it without the fear of doing it badly on your job. So you get that experience without that bad experience job-wise. One of the fun things about ASCE and SEI is the travel. You get to go out to, well, at ASCE, I've been to many parts of the world, but you meet engineers both in the US and globally, and you find out that they're a lot alike and they're all doing what they love to do in terms of engineering. And it's one thing that we have to do is we love doing it, but we have to be able to talk about it, to explain what we're doing. Because I could design the best bridge in the world, but if I couldn't tell anybody about it, what good would it be?
Yeah. You were talking about your travel experiences.
Oh, yes. With ASCE and with my job, I've traveled around the world. I've been to China, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, both for my firm and also for ASCE. I've been to Australia, New Zealand. I've been to many countries in Europe, especially Spain. I got to meet with some of the Spanish engineers for their their Spanish Society of Civil Engineer meeting. So it's been quite exciting from that travel standpoint. But also in the US, it's fun to travel around the US, especially to the universities, to meet the students that are going to be our future. And just find out what they're looking for in engineering and try to give them some points and tips as to what they could do to achieve it.
So hopefully we'll be able to travel again soon. So how do you think during the last 6 months, how's COVID affected some of your organization participation? And what do you see kind of as in the future of that?
Well, the past 6 months, I found I haven't traveled to the SEI Congress, a number of the things I normally go to, but they've changed to virtual. So it was a good way to test out virtual conferences and conventions, also committee meetings. I belong to ARIMA. It's a railroad committee for steel structures for bridges. And we've had meetings that seem to go well on the Zoom or the other virtual devices that we have. So really, that's it. It's just that we can't get out, so we have to find another way of doing it. And I think we're starting to get successful, though it's not as good in some instances as the in place.
So we have another question about bridge engineers. And do you think that having a master's degree is an important part of having to become a bridge engineer after graduation?
I started my job back then with just my bachelor's degree, and I found that I needed more. So during work, I went to Poly Institute of New York, which is now NYU Poly, and got my master's at night. And I found that things I learned at night, I could actually apply to structural engineering the next day. So I recommend, if you're in structural engineering, definitely get a master's because it will help you.
And so do you have any tips? Someone had a question about interviewing and interviewing the process. And I know that you did a lot in your firm. You work there in management. Do you have any tips for interviewing, especially for bridge engineering firms?
Know a bit about the firm before you go in there and sit down. Know about yourself. Make sure you have a good idea of what you want to achieve. Even if you have a range of things, at least have some idea of where you want to go. And just be honest. Just talk. And don't be afraid to talk.
Right. And I know in your leadership and all of the fact, there was one of the first introductions that I had to you when I came to SEI there was the clip that you did on TV with John Oliver, and then in 60 Minutes, all related to the infrastructure. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of having public speaking skills, and a little bit about how you became a TV star from your ASCE?
Well, I was with the 2009 report card for America's infrastructure, and I was also president of ASCE in 2012. So there were a number of points where I had an opportunity to talk about infrastructure and bridges. I did get to go with Dan Rather in a helicopter, 60 Minutes in a helicopter over Pittsburgh. And that's where some of those clips came out, because at the end of the basic questions the interviewer had, he said, "Is there anything else we should do since we're up here in an elevator, in a helicopter?" So I had him go up the river a little bit to show him a bridge that actually had a bridge built underneath it to catch the debris from it. And I think that's what kicked off a lot of the Colbert and John Oliver type humor aspects of infrastructure. But even though they were laughing at it, it did get the message out that infrastructure needs investment and repairs. So humor helps us. It gets to a different audience and a wider audience.
And Brittany, I know, is going to add some of those clips to our YouTube page to look at after viewing, if you want to get see how John Oliver did a roast on Andy in the infrastructure report card. But can you tell about how, like, what experience and how you were training to be able to feel comfortable, like on this Zoom meeting, this in YouTube, and doing these things with I know that you get an expert witness referral on a lot of incidents that you get to be interviewed on live TV. What are some of the skills and how did you develop those?
Well, public speaking is very important, and that really comes from practice. I was petrified to go in front of people, but if you practice enough and force yourself to get in front of people and know your topic, you definitely have to know your topic. With ASCE, when I was becoming president, they sent me to a special course in the DC area to learn public speaking or to improve in my public speaking. And the first time there, I was quite stiff. And the instructor says, well, is there anything you really want to talk about that you feel strongly about? Because they had given me a set script. And I said, I'd like to talk about infrastructure. So they take me doing the infrastructure and they said, wow, you're a different person. You know that stuff, you believe in it. And it shows when you speak. And that's what I recommend. Know your topic and make sure you've practiced before so that you're comfortable talking to people.
And it's a lot easier to practice now with everybody having their cameras on all their PCs and everything.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So I don't know if that's good or bad. So I'm going to switch a little bit. And could you talk a little bit about how you got involved with the CROSS program in ASCE and SEI and what you're doing that and about that?
Well, Glenn Bell, who's the other director of CROSS, is really the one who's been pushing this so hard into the US because he saw the benefits of it both in the UK and wanted to get that into the United States. And what it is basically, it's a confidential reporting of structural safety. So that allows engineers, inspectors, even the public to, if they see something wrong on a job site or in just driving along underneath a bridge, there's a method for them to anonymously report that to CROSS, and then we can take it. And if it's something that we feel is important or beneficial, we will then take that anonymous report and send it to our panel of experts to comment on it. Hopefully we can get some lessons learned. And that's the whole idea. We make mistakes, all engineers do, but we should learn from them. And it's better to learn from other people's mistakes than your own. So this is a way to get those out with the recommendations from our expert panel to learn, to find out more about how you approach things and what things you should forget when you're designing. And that's why we think it's so important to bring it to the US. And that's why Glenn and I have been working so hard on CROSS US to get it up and running. And we have, I think our second newsletter is out in about another week or so, Laura?
Yep, next week.
So if you go to cross.org, I'm sorry, cross-us.org, you can see that newsletter. And also it gives you an opportunity to sign up so that you can see more of the information and actually do searches on it if you have a particular topic you want to look into.
Yeah, we'll add that link also to the after the event. And if you sign up for the CROSS e-news alerts, then you'll get a notification when we have something newly posted on the website. And so CROSS started, with one of the objectives in the Global Activities Division, which is SEI's newest division. I know when you were president of SEI in 2017 and before that you were involved in setting up the global program. Can you talk us a little bit why you think that having SEI be out in the global community is important?
Well, we find as we go around the world that structural engineers are pretty much the same around the country, around the whole globe. And this is an opportunity for SEI to get out there and learn from those other countries, of other structural engineers in those countries, and also to share what we have with them. So it's a great opportunity to just learn and also to learn from them. And that's really one of the basics of our global activities division.
And do you think that will be important for the future of a structural engineer in their career to be able to be realize what's happening in the global world?
Oh, definitely. As American engineers get involved in other countries around the globe, you need to know more about them. This is a way to introduce you to some of those other countries and some of those other engineers before you actually step foot in the country. So it's a great way to start out, and also to let them understand us a little bit better. Also a chance to find out about their codes and standards and see if they have individual ones, how they compare to ours, or in some instances, some of these countries are using our codes already.
So just to remind everybody, we have Andy here. He has a lot of experience in bridge engineering, leadership, public speaking, the infrastructure report card. So please, if you want to ask him a question, put it in the chat and we'll ask it for him. So I know I have one other follow up with the GAD, and the program was seed funded from the SEI Futures Fund. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what that is and how that's helping with new initiatives in SEI?
This came up several years ago to put a futures fund together where we could have contributions from our members to basically invest in the future of structural engineering. And the Global Activities Division was one of the areas we invested, but also we're looking at our younger members and also students. And we've been doing a lot of investment in them. We have scholarships so they can come to the SEI Congress. We try to help to support them as if they put in applications for various activities that they're doing. It's our way of investing now for the future of structural engineering.
Yeah, and just as a note for that any donations to the SEI Futures Fund is 100% on our initiatives. And though that we're in the COVID time and we know that it's financially maybe not feasible, we are doing an end of the year appeal at the end of the year in November and December. So look for some contacts with that. So is there any other questions you can have about advice now with young engineers, specifically about with the COVID-19 and what they should be doing as they're starting out in their career? There's a lot of uncertainties and unknowns, and I'm not sure that you've lived through some difficult times also within the profession.
Well, one of the things I speak to students about when I used to go and visit college campuses is communication skills. They are so important. As I mentioned earlier, you could design the best building or structure in the world, but if you can't communicate, both written and orally, you really aren't going to advance. You need to be able to talk to people. And again, it's a matter of practice. It's a matter of knowing your subject. So what I advise everybody is practice on that public speaking, on those presentation skills. Be able to talk without reading monotonely from a PowerPoint. Put yourself into it.
Yes, it's practice, right? You say practice. So we have any other questions? Be sure we have time for one or two more questions for Andy. Andy, do you have any other topic that you would like to just talk about?
Well, we talked about CROSS. We talked about the Futures Fund, communication skills. There must be another question out there somewhere.
I have one for you. What's your three most favorite things about being a bridge engineer?
Three most favorite things. The first time a bridge goes up and down.
Yeah.
Being able to put a bridge on paper, on the plans, and then physically see it being built, to see that those normal sheets turn into real steel or concrete and become real. And the third, not making any errors. That's the third most important thing. Having things checked.
It's like the Romans used to have to stand under the aqueducts when they took the shoring down and stuff like that.
Yeah, one of my clients was Suffolk County out on the tip of Long Island. They had a motto in their bridge department. Basically, it says, "We stand under our bridges." So.
That's literally standing under the bridges. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're almost to the top of the hour here. This is another last chance if you have any questions for Andy. Or, and Andy, do you have any closing remarks that you want to do?
Basically, try to get involved in both SEI and ASCE at an early age. Like I said earlier, if there's committees that you can join, it gives you a taste. It gives you an idea of what you'll be doing in the future. And if you like certain topics, or you can move to another committee and try other things. And it also gives you a chance to relate to engineers who are senior to you and also your peers. So you start making contacts, and that helps also. Go ahead, Laura.
No, I just used to say nothing ever really happens if you just stay at home all the time, which we're doing right now. So we're kind of like living a more boring life, and hopefully that will change soon and you can have more additional experiences.
Yeah, and I know people say never volunteer, but sometimes volunteering for various things brings you to new interests, new topics, new areas that you'd like to explore. So volunteer.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Andy, and all of your great experience and sharing it with our audience. Just want to have a couple of announcements on what's happening here at SEI. Our next virtual event is the ASCE VTech Conference, which is a virtual technical conference, which is powered by all of the ASCE institutes the week of September 14th. So check out the program, and registration is still open. It's ascevtech.org. And then join us on September 22nd for a continuation of session 3 for our Career Path series, which is hosted by our current SEI president, Glenn Bell. And the session on that topic is going to be advancing the project engineer to the project manager. And the guest will be Emily Guglielmo, who's currently the seismic subcommittee of ASCE 7 vice chair and president of NCSCA, and Victor Van Satten, who's going to be the incoming SEI 2021 president-elect. So thank you again, everybody, and look forward to seeing you again on SEI Live on October 7th, where I will be talking with the incoming SEI president, Joe DiPompio, who on October 7th will actually be the president. So thank you, everybody. Stay safe, and look forward to seeing you virtually and hopefully in person very soon.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Andy.